All right, I want to show you some video that has been bothering me for a while, and I mentioned it at the top of the hour and also yesterday. I think this will tie things together. I hope it does if you watch both episodes. First one is from Bertha Lewis. She's in front of a bunch of young socialists of America, and here's what she says.
Organize, get out into the street. You really have got to circle the wagons. This is not rhetoric or hyperbole. This is real.
She talks in here about how these Tea Partiers are going to come and get you. This is just like when they rounded up the Japanese. I mean, it's quite a stirring speech. That bothered me. That really bothered me. Because I do believe take power is the next step here. Stage demonstrations. Riots, they need trouble. But something bothered me even more. In the summer, Van Jones cloaked a message here in peace and love, and it stuck out to me. I want you to listen to what he says.
You handle the top down, but it's also bottom up and inside out. Top down, bottom up, and inside out. So now your challenge as you leave here, our challenge, is to take care of that bottom up part and that inside out part, the heart part.
The heart part. That's what did it for me. He said the heart part. I'm like, there's something wrong here. But I didn't know what this meant. This is a tried and true technique that communists use to crush people of a nation between the members of a government at the top. Remember, he said, you've taken care of the top part. What does that mean? You put the right radicals in power. You've taken care of the top part. Then they get the radicals at the bottom to cause chaos. If you don't believe me, that's fine. I tell you, don't take my word for anything. You go ahead and look it up yourself. Let me take you back to where I took you at the beginning of this program, Czechoslovakia. I only told you half the story of what the Czechoslovakians thought was happening to their country in the late 1940s. After World War II, Czechoslovakia was in real trouble and people were hungry and there was strife. And a small group of communists managed to gain power in the Czech government through parliamentary maneuvers. That was taking care of the top-down pressure. Meanwhile, unbeknownst to all the people in Czechoslovakia, they were agitating people, getting them out into the streets, riot, strike, protest, create the illusion of a widespread clamor for change. That was the bottom-up pressure on the system. Well, the people were left in between, and they didn't know the truth. They didn't know what was going on. They were hungry, they were scared, they were confused, and they were looking for help. When they cried out for help from the government, which they thought was not with the rioters, oh, they got help. They had no idea that some at the top were in league with those creating the chaos at the bottom. The people at the top had formed a shadow government, and they were only too happy to help, and they helped by clamping down on the Czech people. So the Czech people were hit from both directions, top down, bottom up, and inside out. Their country was turned inside out. They didn't know what to believe. The same is now being called for. The organizations that are calling now for Obama to bypass Congress and issue just executive orders. The Institute for Policy Studies. Soros funding. They came out with their annual report that literally says outside, inside. Outside pressure and inside strategy. What does that mean? It's just a different way of saying up and down pressure. Same thing, outside, inside. Now, how do I know about this strategy in Czechoslovakia? Well, it came from Jan Kozak's Communist Strategy paper. He was a writer and a member of the Communist Party at the time. He wrote this essay, and it was never intended to go public, but it accidentally did. We found it in a very old copy of the Congressional Records. Everything I am telling you for the last 2 nights, all of this strategy, all of this, the exposure. Why do you think George Soros sent his number 2 guy to my number 2 guy to ask us to consider him a kindly old gentleman? Because what he's doing was never meant to be published. But after being bullied, we stood up. We're not playing your game. It's no accident. This is what Van Jones meant. Top down, inside out, after the bottom up. What the Czech people didn't know is what you know now, that there is an orchestration of the ground. It's all being orchestrated. You know the groups involved now, and you know who's at the top. The Czechoslovakian people didn't know that, so they ran to the people they usually trusted, but they called for the wrong people. The other thing that the Czechoslovakian people didn't know is the first lesson of the 9/12 Project. What was my goal when I introduced the 9/12 Project? To tell you, you are not alone. But here was one of the most important lines out of that, especially in retrospect. Listen to this. The truth is, they don't surround us. We surround them. This is our country. Why is that important? Because when you study what happened in Czechoslovakia, the people felt alone, and they felt surrounded. You're not alone, and they do not surround you. It's an illusion. It's a puppet show. It's a stage. The radicals need you to feel that way. They need you to riot. They need you to create chaos. They'll do it if you won't, but they'd prefer that you did it. So when Van Jones says bottom up, he means get out into the streets. Why do you think she's telling the young communists they're coming for you? Get out into the streets. It's a game. And George Soros enjoys the game. He finds it kind of fun, those subversive activities, not my words, his words. He means the government forces that are in league with the riots when Van Jones says bottom up and top down, the top will clamp down. Those are the people who are trying to force this president to do what he knows needs to be done. Van Jones' words. Top down, bottom up, inside out strategy. That's what's happening. Except now we've thrown a tire iron into their little game that they have played 4 other times, and they are now executing the 5th time. But now we're changing the game. That's why we have tried to arm you with the most powerful weapon you have, information you need. Find all of this out. Find it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. Know it and tell everyone you know. George Soros, you should know one thing, sir. We are not Czech citizens. We are Americans. I want to take a minute here to show you something that was released by George Soros last night, and the OSI, his charitable arm, because he's a philanthropist. And to be fair to him, I want to show what they rolled out, but I want you to know one thing. This guy has collapsed 4 countries, 4 regimes, 4 currencies. He's the most powerful man on earth, 35th richest man in the world. This is Enron. What you're seeing here, this is what happens when a company is in collapse. This is a desperate cry for George Soros to turn around and look at a guy at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. This is coming undone. You spread all of the information that we have given you, and you do your own homework. You verify yourself. Go to original sources and verify yourself and spread it. Because light is the only thing this guy, he can't stand the light. He has to hide behind a mask. But watch their corporate film on, oh, don't listen to that guy at 5 o'clock. Really, I'm a good guy. Here it is.
Over the past 3 decades, George Soros, the founder and chairman of the Open Society Foundations, has spent more than $8 billion to transform the lives of the world's most oppressed and ignored people. From helping those with HIV and TB in Africa, to righting centuries of wrongs against Europe's largest ethnic minority, the Roma, Soros has championed open society issues around the globe.
What is it that I really care about? Democracy, market. These are the institutions that you need for people to be able to improve their conditions in life.
His experiences as a child in World War II fueled his drive to combat totalitarianism. In the 1980s, his Open Society Foundations helped topple communism in Eastern Europe, strengthening democracy by supporting education, justice, and freedom of information.
Open society can prevail only when people can speak truth to power.
Today, the Open Society Foundations are present in more than 70 countries, including the United States. Soros recently gave $50 million to provide food, shelter, and clothing for New York City's neediest, who were hard hit by the economic crisis. The foundations work to build vibrant and tolerant democracies whose governments are accountable to their citizens. To learn more about George Soros and his philanthropy, visit OpenSocietyFoundations.org.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. And don't forget, he's given all that money, just to help good things. Well, for instance, just a lot of these. This is only half the list of the organizations that are helping him accomplish his new world, spooky world order. That's it. There are really two ways to look at what I do every day here. You can either say, as my critics say, that I'm a fearmonger, or you can say that I am empowering you with information. I hate the fact that some people believe that I'm a fearmonger. I just say what I believe. That's what I do. And I believe bad things are coming. I believe that we can get past them, but we have to be prepared. I've told you over and over again, I hope I'm wrong. But FDR was wrong when he said the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. The only thing we have to fear is not being prepared and not knowing what's really happening. But progressives, they'll say I'm a fearmonger, and they want you to believe that everything is fine, and that's what they'll tell you. Watch.
This is a rich country. We have plenty of money, and if you don't believe me, ask Halliburton.
We've been able to create or save 3.5 million jobs.
Will the Federal Reserve monetize this debt?
The Federal Reserve will not monetize the debt.
That legislation, according to The Economist, has saved or created 3.6 million jobs.
We have turned this economy around.
I think we see entities that are fundamentally sound financially and withstand some of the disaster scenarios.
Okay. You can believe that, and I hope they're right. They're not, but I hope they're right. You know better. You know the truth. You know, on jobs, really? Unemployment rate unchanged, 9.6% last night. They told us it would never go over 8. Food prices are rising. You don't believe me? Go shopping. Wall Street Journal now says an inflationary tide is beginning to ripple through the supermarkets and the restaurant. They're still telling you that they're worried about deflation. Don't worry about inflation. Check the price of gas. We're not going to monetize the debt. That was under oath. Really? The Fed just said that they will print more money to buy as much Treasury debt in the next 8 months as the government will issue. Fannie and Freddie, Barney Frank, together they now have twice as many foreclosed homes as they did this time last year. America, we have a historic choice in front of us. Do we open our eyes, or do we keep burying our heads in the sand? Do we end the book called America, or do we just turn the page and begin a new chapter? I've told you, 40-day and 40-night challenge. Please take this. People, we can't be the people who are angry. We can't be those people. They got that covered. We have to be people who say, thank goodness you're here. We have to be the ones who count on faith, hope, and charity from each other. From each other. We don't need a billionaire to activate it. We activate it in ourselves. Please share all this information with your friends. A little more on the Puppet Master on tomorrow's show. And then on Friday, we're going to change the mood a bit. We're going to talk about gratitude with an incredible audience. You do not want to miss Friday. From New York, good night, America.